To generations of young Australian music fans, the name Central Station has always meant one thing: dance. Central Station Records is an institution. From its retail stores across the country, its record labels, its chart hits, right down to its iconic logo. From the very outset, the story of Central Station Records has been intertwined with the history of dance music in Australia. Central Station was there at the start, a facilitator, a driving force in the growth of the local dance and club culture. In commemoration of its 30th anniversary, this is the story of Central Station Records, the story of dance music in Australia.
I was young and I saw poverty. I used to go to school with no money. I had no books, I had no pads to write my notes. I had to use my brain for everything. And it was tough for me. So I had a very tough youth. No play, just work, study, work, study. I don't want you to feel sorry for me because I had a wonderful life. And we opened up a store in Windsor, Chapel Street in Windsor. I got in contact with a Puerto Rican in Miami. At 4 o'clock in the morning, made a phone call. He had a lot of product, but I had to buy like 2,000 or 3,000 pieces at one time. So I took the gamble and bought 2,000 pieces, but there was no resistance. People bought them. So the 2,000 pieces almost went in a couple of weeks. That was amazing business.
I mean, Joe, even back then, he just had that gift of picking hits. Like, he just knew what was going to be good. And as soon as he found something, you'd know, because he'd come running in there, sort of, baby, you got to have a listen to this, you know. And then he just played and played and played. And just watching him, you know, from a retail aspect, like watching him sell records, like he taught me and probably a lot of other people that worked at the shop a lot, you know, just the way he handled customers and the way he sort of could hype something up and sell it. It was amazing to watch.
Oh no, I don't need.
Oh, you do. Oh, $15 a piece. You know, to $3.50 across the board. Everything in store.
And I actually just came for the one today. Actually, thanks.
How do you want to play for that? Cash or card?
Joe from the early days created an amazing, vibe behind the counter, and it was just the place that you want to shop.
My first recollections of Joe was of this absolute madman who was standing at one end of the Pitt Street store, throwing stock at Paul Jackson, the manager, up the other end. And I guess that kind of sums up Joe's mad energy.
My first Joe impressions, let's see, I would have been in Sydney maybe about 48 hours, 72 hours. Pretty overwhelmed by the place, and my manager had hooked up a dinner with us and Joe and Morgan, and we're going to this restaurant just a couple of doors up the road from the store in Oxford Street. And I was thinking, it's a bit swanky, you know, got to act pretty proper and polite, and you know, uber cool being in Sydney and everything. And just a little kid from Adelaide, and he's like, you know, high flying, you know, mountains of industry, and it was basically ordering his food, and Joe starts to get drunker and drunker and get louder and louder and more flamboyant, knocking stuff over, and then basically by the time the end of the meal, I remember he starts talking about his dogs. And I'm going, okay, so we're talking about your dogs. And I like dogs, so that's all cool. And then we're like, oh, we're going to go. And he's looking around at all the other tables, and he's realised there's all this bones and all this food on everyone's tables. And he proceeds to ask for a bag, and he goes around to every single person's table and gets scraps off all their tables. And I was so mortified. I slunk out there as quickly as I could.
He is a mad hatter, and he's got this obsession with your blood group. He thinks it's what you are, what you eat. You know that diet, you know, where if you're AB negative or A plus, then you can't eat meat. And so he'd hound you for days on end, saying, oh, you are such and such, you're not allowed to eat meat. And I said, look, I don't know my blood group. And he went, oh. And so the whole office basically got pulled up at one point, and he made them all, he didn't sit on their chest and make them do it, but he gave them all a blood test on site so they all knew what their blood group was. And then he did all this after hounding them, and then he bloody charged them $20 each for the fucking test. So we're like handing over money for this.
That's entrepreneurial, Joe, at the
Seeking boys, what time is it?
It's time for house.
Ooh la la. Ooh, house.
In 1982, Joe met a New Zealander named Morgan Williams late one evening at a Melbourne nightclub. Joe went on to make Morgan his fully fledged partner in life and business. It's here that the story of Central Station transforms into the tale of two men.
I met Joe at this nightclub, and we almost immediately started talking about the DJing, the music, and our shared passion for the music. We met in a nightclub in Melbourne called Mandate, which was a gay venue, and we got talking about the music. We realised we both had a passion for music. At that time, I was actually selling insurance in Melbourne.
But your music was rock and roll. You had some junky products in your collection. I had to throw them all out. We
you didn't throw them out. I actually found them for sale in the store. You sold my entire record collection.
Totally polluting the system.
In the sale bin at Central Station Records in the city square.
And I think that the dance music industry, or any niche creative industry, is such that if you go into it just to try and make a dollar, you won't make a dollar. Whereas if you are passionate about it and just follow your passion, then everything else will follow. The success and wealth will follow. And it's great seeing Joe and Morgan's passion turn into that success.
They, as a team, Joe's driving force, his passion for music and the culture, and Morgan's ability to network around the world has just come together to create this amazing thing.
Joe's crazy. He loves to have a great time. He never knows when to stop. And that's what I think everyone loves about him is he's always up for a good laugh. Morgan's a lovely guy, and you could talk to him for hours about anything. And you always want to spend more time with Morgan. So, they're a really good bunch.
When they got into, I think it was either Bombay or Delhi in India, but one of those chaotic, Indian cities, and they got off at the airport. And when they travel, they never plan an itinerary. They just take off and do their thing. And they got into a cab. He spoke a bit of English, and they said, we need to go to a hotel. What do you suggest? And he said, look, all the hotels are good except this one. It's where all the pimps and the gangsters and the gangs hang out. And Morgan just said, sounds terrific, we'll go there. And he was like, no, that's the bad one. They're like, yeah, that's where we want to go. And I said to Morgan, how was it? He goes, it was wild, we got a room, went downstairs, and there were all these gangsters and all this Indian riffraff, and they had a great night. And that's Morgan and Joe.
As soon as the beat drop, we got the streets locked overseas. A Punjabi MC in the rock. I came to see the mommies in the spot. On the count of 3, drop your body like it's hot. 1, young, 2, you. 1, 2, 3, young hoes.
We actually went to Studio 54. I can remember that.
Oh yeah, a few others as well.
Yeah.
So the garage underground. There was this bar where had 3 levels in the garage, 3 levels.
Yeah.
All black people. There was
the tunnel.
The tunnel, that's right. Yeah. We want some pussy, but there's some crew.
2 live crew.
2 live crews. Yeah. Then all these girls come on stage, and they took their clothes off in bikinis and all, and they said, "Do you want some pussy?" And the 4,000 kids went crazy. And it was like sardines, really.
We were the only whiteys.
We were only 2 whites allowed in. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
This because we knew a DJ, Richard, popped very
from Jungle Brothers.
Girl, I'll house you. Girl, I'll house you. Girl, I'll house you. You in my hut now. My hut. Girl, I'll house you. Girl, I'll house you. Girl, I'll house you. You in my hut now. When you're in my hut, you know what.
The Central Station shops became general suppliers first to Melbourne's, then Australia's interstate capital's burgeoning DJ boom. They became the infrastructure to a subculture. Some say the stores became cultural entities within themselves.
They were the retail chain that supported this underground movement, and I think internationally a lot of Australian DJs and the Australian dance scene is regarded now on a par with a lot of places, with producers, remixers. Even when the international DJs come out, you know, the guys who are playing before them are playing tracks that are, you know, right up there, that, you know, they're brand new tracks. Now, I mean, I guess with the internet that's bound to happen, but 15, 20 years ago, Central Station were at the forefront there, so the Australian dance music scene has evolved at the same speed as probably a lot of other markets, whereas if you look at some other places like Canada or the US or maybe South Africa, they haven't gone at the same speed, they haven't had the same build-up of labels and whatnot, and that's probably because they didn't have a Central Station there.
The thing I remember most is just walking down those stairs and listening to the music pump through, and when you got in there, it was like being at the heart of dance culture itself.
Everyone knew about Central Station Records, whether you're from Perth, where I was, or Adelaide, Melbourne. One thing I remember is my parents, when I was around 13 or 14, saying, "Oh, we're going to Sydney for whatever." But it wasn't for me. It was, we're going to Sydney and I'm going to Central Station, and that was the reason for my trip.
We used to, from Adelaide, me and a DJ mate of mine used to organise these sort of bus trips and train trips over to Melbourne to go pick up records every month or so. Basically, because you couldn't get anything in Adelaide at all, and it was a big thing going to the store, and because we were pretty broke, we used to actually pinch quite a few records, because it was pretty well known back in those days. You could go and pay for 3 records, walk out with about 15.
I used to go into Central, it was years before I started DJing. I'd go into Central every week, and the guys who worked there were like some of the DJs that I'd go out and see every weekend, so that they were like my superstars.
The first time I went to Central Station Records here in Sydney was when it was based in Pitt Street, and it was around 91, 92, and I didn't know much about Central Station. I'd heard from other DJs and other friends about this store, so I went in there the first time and I was just amazed about it, because, you know, my record shopping was basically, you know, your local HMV and your brushes at that time, so it was all local releases. But suddenly there's this big wall of imported vinyl with new mixes and, you know, DJ heaven basically. So.
Melbourne's small, you know. Melbourne and Sydney. I mean, I've shopped in every Central Station record store in Australia. Okay, and yeah, I mean, I do recollect. My best recollections are of Melbourne having this shit back in the day. That's all. I do remember that. I remember buying, and then later on, I remember in the late 80s they had a big sale, and I remember going to see. They had original P-Funk, Bootsy Collins albums for like $5, and it was crazy because they were rare records. I was like, yeah, I'll take that, and I'll take that, and I'll take that, and I'll grab this, and all of a sudden I've got a stack like this. But like to this day, you still can't buy originals of that. Now they're worth money. You can't even get them anymore. You can get represses, but I was, you know, digging the originals.
About mid to late '88, the first store opened up in Adelaide, and it was actually opened by a former mobile DJ. He obviously had a pretty good relationship with Joe and Morgan, and basically convinced them that Adelaide needed a store and opened up this tiny little store, not much bigger than the size of this room. And I remember the first day it opened, I went in and I probably spent like $800 or $1,000, which was probably 2 months' wages at that time. And I remember Joe's brother at the time just goes, you'll be very good customer. And I'm like, yeah, damn right. And it's pretty much within 6 months of opening, there was probably only one, it was actually 2 clubs sort of playing, which was like the hot new music at the time. And I think within 6 months of store opening, there was probably like 8 clubs around the city, and it's like the suburbs had kind of exploded, and like everyone wanted to be a DJ.
I guess I started off working in the Brisbane store when I started with Central Station and DJing, etc., and always was going in and buying records from the store, and it's been, I guess, an essential part of clubbers, DJs, the whole dance music community of Brisbane.
I remember back then there was, the DJs, the guys in the know, the guys that wanted the music first, were crowded around those boxes on a Tuesday morning. It was quite an incredible thing to see, like vultures.
It was a weekly thing. It was a weekly ritual. You go in every week. You knew when the shipment was going to come in. And you're there like 5 minutes after they open the box.
Yeah. It used to be like that. Shipments would come in on Tuesdays, and there'd just be 30 DJs all trying to get into this tiny little space. They'd just be laid on the floor, wouldn't they?
And you what you done, huh? You what? You want to throw you out, huh? Ready? Ready? Let go!
So people were saying, release your own product, do your own stuff. There was a song called Venus that I wanted to license, but another company just was one day ahead of me. And that song became a #1 hit. So anyway, then there was another song called Stroking, which Colossal Records released. And we had that song for months on hand. And I didn't want to do it because it was too much paperwork. And I've already had too much to do. But anyway, I was convinced to launch our label.
Here's Johnny.
DJ, let the bass drum go like DJ, let the bass drum go like
In the beginning, Central Station Records, the label, only released a handful of records. The first commercial success, and ARIA #1, was Here's Johnny. It really got the ball rolling and led to a fundamental change in the Central Station business model forever. This momentum allowed Central Station to grow and set up sub-labels to cater to the different sub-genres of dance music that evolved over time.
Here's Johnny.
Here's Johnny was the first track probably that was regarded as a dance song that actually hit #1. And that was a song that just, radio wasn't playing anything like that. I mean, it probably had the biggest impact as a song that the whole market didn't understand. And it was at that point where, major record companies, no one could kind of understand, where did this song come from? Who are these guys putting this stuff out? They literally couldn't comprehend it. It was so different to the market. So that probably had the most kind of impact, I'd say.
There were 3 labels. There was the Tinted, which is house music, the Trance, which was the Bang On label, and Dinky, which was the high energy music. Dinky did fantastically well overseas. High energy was big at the time, especially here, but over in the UK, that label really took off.
Yo, club hats, bring the needle down to the vinyl, man.
Morgan's main role was to build up Central Station's music catalogue, not just domestically, but internationally. Central Station started attending international music fairs, licensing both songs for the Australian market and also for export to the rest of the world.
The biggest trade fair internationally, the biggest music trade fair, is Medem in Cairns every January, and I've been there 17 times, I think, 17 Januaries.
Yeah, Morgan disappeared halfway through Medem. He was, he gets bored because he's a classic at the Medem stands. He'll be talking to somebody, and if he realises they're not going to bring him any business, or he's really just after him, he just walks off. And they'll be sitting halfway through conversation, and he'll just be like, oh, or he'll come and stand beside you. It'll be like, there's Morgan with this boring twat, and you're standing there talking to someone else, and he'll just move over, and then kind of, this is Jamie, by the way, and then just bolt. And so you're left with juggling a couple of interviews. He was a classic for that. He was the pair of them were in it for fun, and people often just hung out with him for that.
Central's next massive commercial hit came through its collaboration with a community radio station in Sydney, Wild FM. Central Station had long been involved with community broadcasting, but Wild FM was a phenomenon unto itself. Run by a conglomerate of young dance music fans, it was only on air for a few years while it vied for a permanent radio licence, which it never got. But it became an immediate favourite for dance music fans. In 1997, Central Station released the first Wild FM compilation CD, and it was simply massive.
1996 was when Wild FM, I think, pretty much kicked in, and that changed the way that Australia listened to radio. That was a phenomenal success, and the Wild compilations that came off the back of Wild FM were debuting at #1 for many, many years, and they were just the definitive mix of everything to listen to in dance before major record labels and import brands came and started getting involved in the market.
It created demand for the Wild CD, and the first one sold 20,000 copies, which was just, for us, was just wow, this is incredible, And the more the radio kept on playing, the more CDs we kept selling. Did not just sell Wild CD, but it also made a lot of DJs popular, Australian DJs.
When there was an offer to leave V and host Wild on Channel 7, I thought this is quite bizarre. It's all sort of come full circle, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's been terrific to see, I guess, Wild still kicking on.
By the 1990s, it felt like everyone in the world wanted to be a DJ. House and hip-hop were now fully fledged music movements, with crossover hits regularly topping the global mainstream charts. Suddenly, it wasn't uncommon for the biggest dance parties in the world to be drawing hundreds of thousands of youngsters. It was an electronic music revolution, the rise of the superstar DJ.
Around the mid-90s, there was this real boom of DJ culture just taking off. Turntablism had, really sunk its teeth into the hip-hop community. The rave scene was alive and well, and there was just, all these kids who just wanted to get on decks. And, we were selling turntables at this amazing rate. We just couldn't get enough of the things. For the first time, there was a wealth of dance music on radio. Just everywhere you looked, dance music was just in people's faces. There's, legal parties going on, big clubs opening up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when they first started up, because it was dance music was relatively new, and they were just sort of, I guess, they were at the forefront. They were the first guys buying, Italian house stuff in the early days, and the mega mixes that they used to bring in and stuff like that. They really kind of, I guess, jumped onto that whole European dance culture pretty quickly. Then as time progressed and they became a label, the dance thing turned commercial and crossed over and became pop. So, they went from being at the forefront of Italian house and the whole Jack to the Sound of the Underground, Capella, that really Italo house thing, to signing Happy Hardcore Records, and then signing, the Venga Boys and Eiffel 65 and, Nick's Skits and the Wild compilations, and, I guess the whole thing turned into commercial dance.
The dance music scene in Sydney in the mid-90s, a big party was, and it doesn't mean that bigger parties hadn't happened before this, because there'd been the big rap parties at the Hordern Pavilion, in the late 80s, early 90s, but that had sort of died off. And in the mid-90s, a big party were 400 to 600 people at the rooftop of the King's Cross Hotel, where the hotel didn't know what to do with that space, so they let these rat bags, throw dance music parties up there. And a lot of people thought I was absolutely crazy to build a nightclub which held 900 people specifically for dance music. And the popular opinion was there is no way that this industry can sustain a venue like that week in, week out. And of course, time has completely proven it wrong.
Check this out.
I think the likes of DJs like Sasha and Digweed and people like that sort of threw the whole DJ culture into the mainstream, basically. And every kid, leaving school, the first thing they wanted to do was become a DJ. So I guess it had taken the whole DJ thing out of the underground and sort of made it cross over into the mainstream. And everybody wants to be a DJ.
Hello, and today we're going to talk about DJing. Now, what is DJing, you might ask? Well, DJing is the ability to mix one song into another song, without the gap. Now, this is called a record player, and this is another record player. Some DJs call them turntables, while others call them decks. But what do they know? Now, the first thing you need to do before you go into the mix is to put the needle on the record. See? You can feel the beat. And sometimes, when music plays, people dance. Now, here comes the mix. First, we need to move this thing here, which is called, yeah, whatever. And then we put a song on the deck, and we listen to it in our headphones. Wow! It's like having your own private stereo. Now, to put the two together. And there's the mix!
Nowadays, it's common to hear dance music on commercial radio and on television, as well as hearing it in corporate television advertising campaigns. In an ever-increasingly competitive environment, Central Station had to be able to supply a demand for commercial hits, but at the same time were able to indulge themselves and stay true to their roots and take on underground, credible, yet less lucrative projects.
One of the exciting things, I think, for Nova as a radio station when we first launched into Australia was the fact that dance music wasn't really getting played, if at all, on commercial radio stations. And so it was definitely a hole in every market for really good commercial dance, things like Darude.
Yeah, I guess we pick up, tracks that would be, commercially viable, ones that we need to have radio singles, so they have to be aimed at radio, etc., to, keep the business going and achieving it. And there's other records that we pick up because we just really love them and we really, really want to get them out there. So I guess some's for the money, some's for the love, and it's a bit of both and walking that tightrope. Yeah.
No, but it's not even that. Like, you get a commercial track away and you feel so good about it. Even the fact every time I hear one of our tracks on radio, still, it's so rewarding. But you get something like a Freeform 5 away or Roger Sanchez or something a bit more credible away. It's that little bit more satisfying again,
It's a good buzz.
It really is. It's a great buzz,
Central Station have always been heavily involved in Australia's gay community. They've always supported events, dance parties, and radio, and of course, released music that is regarded as classic in the scene.
Free FM was partly responsible for a big shift in the attitudes towards gays and lesbians, because, you know, kids were listening to this dance music station that came on after Wild or whatever, and it happened to be the gay station. So you find that a lot of kids came out at high school because it was kind of cool to listen to the gay station, so it wasn't as uncool to be a gay kid. So I've had many emails from people who said they came out to their friends at school, and hence they still got their friends at schools.
The Central Station team believes the future for the label is in developing artists rather than concentrating solely on chasing individual hit singles. And several of those artists, DJs and compilation projects are homegrown in Australia.
Both Central Station and 3D have done, I think, has really fostered the local talent in Australia in terms of dance music. We've looked to what's happening here, and Central Station have been fantastic in fostering and nurturing local DJs and local producers.
We decided to go a bit more serious and develop artists. And we had a lot of artists on our label, and the most important one for our business has been Nick Skits. And we're up to Skits 22.
I guess we've dedicated a lot of time and effort, and Nick's own dedication and time and effort to going out there. The guy's ended up selling, you know, over half a million CDs. He's sold more than anybody else in the scene on a standalone
more than a lot of local Australian artists.
Yeah, like, you know, gold record after gold record after gold record with every release. He's got such a loyal, dedicated fan base, and, you know, like, without any radio play whatsoever.
Yeah, no, the media themselves would be like, who? Almost. Yeah. It's like he's very much, it's about but he's got serious diehards. I mean, I went on tour with him to do the HMV signings around interstates, and there's folk coming up with Skits tattoos up down there, Skits Army, and it really is an experience.
I think a really good one would be Baxter, who is one of Australia's best known female DJs. Her mixology CDs, I think everyone has a copy of them.
People tend to go for sure things, but I think Central have always taken a lot of risk and believed in what they were doing, and I think that's paid off, and it has put a really positive spin back into the scene, into the industry here as well.
I mean, the whole collaboration with Central basically started with Tim coming down to Sublime one night. I used to play at Voodoo on a Friday night, and he was just, you know, mulling around and just sat behind me, and he's like, I just want to hear what you play. And I had no idea he was actually doing A&R at Central at the time. So yeah, he listened to that, and he next week I got a call and said, do you want to do a compilation with Central? And I was like, fantastic, let's give it a go.
As well as developing artists, Central Station Records has built strong links with Aussie clubbing institutions such as In The Mix and Fuzzy.
We thought there were gaps in what was being provided in terms of parties, so we just started doing the kinds of events that we thought people wanted and which we would want to go to. And they did pretty well, so we gradually built up. Now we put on a lot of daytime parties. We've kind of evolved, and our specialty really is big outdoor festival style dance parties, of which the best known would be Field Day. And then a couple of years ago we thought, well, it's really high time we put out a few CDs. So we got together with Central Station and We've released a few compilations and a couple of artist albums.
And the internet has changed the music industry and dance music forever.
Since CDs came out, I mean, that happened in Flinders Street times where people all of a sudden were just ditching their turntables, but not our client base. It didn't change, and people would still ring up going, "Oh my God, you sell vinyl," and they still do that. But there's still people, well, like us too, like the rest of us, that really just collect vinyl and would still say, "Nah, you're not a real DJ if you're not playing vinyl."
Because it sounds better. I think records still are
does.
just, and something you've downloaded off the internet or whatever, it doesn't translate as well up loud in a club. It just doesn't sound as good.
The weirdest thing about what's happened in dance music is that once upon a time the internet didn't exist. So the staff at Central Station were solely responsible for making sure they had music that no one else did. And now with the internet, everyone finds out about everything at exactly the same times.
I think all music companies, ours included, needs to look at how the internet and how the delivery of music has changed over the last 5 years and adapt and be flexible to it. But again, the fundamental things of people want to hear music, and music companies generally are either developing local acts or they're finding international music and they're signing it and they're delivering it to the market in Australia. The fact that when Central started, it got delivered on a piece of vinyl, and in 30 years it'll probably get delivered via a phone line down to your portable player that you'll have, with you all the time, with your phone and everything else in it. That'll be the only thing that's kind of different.
The positive is that 18-year-olds and my 19-year-old daughter are listening to all genres of music, and that's absolutely fantastic. The negative is that she'll tend to just take a couple of tracks and whack them on her iPod. So if someone puts out an album, she might take the 2 tracks, but they don't get that experience of listening to the whole album and watching a band's career develop. It's all about, that's the hit of the moment, the sort of instant gratification. And I can't see that instant gratification stopping in the near future, unfortunately.
Australian dance music is stronger than ever. Domestic artists are not only doing it at home, the international dance community has started to sit up and take notice.
I think that Australian dance music at the moment where it stands is probably the strongest that it's ever been. Probably everyone every year says that, but it's a good thing. If everyone always believes that, then that's great. And
all of a sudden, Aussies are popping up everywhere. They're remixes, they're their own tracks. So we are making something of ourselves at the moment. And you've got DJs like Kid Kenobi, etc., that are putting in hours overseas. All of a sudden, our phones are ringing and they're asking us to come overseas and DJ for them, which is quite an amazing thing.
Who would have thought that local DJs could now be respected overseas or could even have a presence overseas? It's people like Central Station who have a global reach, who are getting Australian artists recognised overseas.
From its humble beginnings as a Melbourne record store in the 70s to launching the first dance music label in Australia, Central Station have always been a major driving force in the Australian dance music scene.
I think they, obviously they've been there since dance music was around, so it's sort of great for younger people as they come on to sort of be nurtured in the hands of a company that's experienced in dance music, I suppose. I mean, they've been there since, and they've been a great supporter of dance music in Australia since the beginnings.
Joe's an incredibly charismatic person, very he's always got some fantastic stories to tell, and he's definitely a character within the dance scene, and I think they've done very well at dance music. It's been good to them. They've had a good life doing what they do, and all respect to them. And to a certain extent, it's inspiring for us because we got into this business out of our spare bedroom. We just wanted to work in something that we really enjoyed, and you can look at two business owners like that who've managed to get their entire livelihood and a very good livelihood out of it for 30 years, and I respect that a lot. It's something to aim for. It's inspiring.
It was about providing a dream and being the infrastructure for a culture, and that I bought into that, and I still buy into that. Wholesale. It's just fantastic the way. I got a lot of my early breaks. I know a lot of kids making records got their first breaks with the label, and a lot of people working behind the stores, working behind the counter in the early days. All end up to be movers and shakers in the industry all over the place. So.
Towards the end of '99, I'd been with the guys for 7 years, and we just kind of come off the success of Venga Boys and Eiffel 65, which was an interesting period in the dance industry. Having number one album with the Venga Boys and number one single Eiffel 65. I kind of felt that I'd achieved possibly everything I could possibly want at Central Station Records.
There's no other company apart from, I suppose, the Ministry, which has come from overseas anyway, and only in the last few years, that's had the same sort of reputation as far as that goes. Central's always been here and always been a part of the DJ or the club culture.
I grew up there. I was 19 when I started, so I really did a lot of my growing years there, and all the friends I made and the new generation of people every year after year that you get to know and all that. It's been great. I can't think of very many other industries, apart from an entertainment type of industry where you could have that same experience.
30 years is fabulous, and I think if you have in sort of marketing bullshit, if you have first mover advantage, which Central Station had, because they did it first. And I think that's why, they could get to 30 years so successfully.
Central Station planned to continue as strong as ever into the 21st century by signing new artists, working with upcoming DJs, and embracing the new sound that the future holds.
When I'm out on the floor, the rhythm starts to take a hold. It goes right through my body, right down to my soul. I think my mind's gonna overload. So turn up the music. Why don't you turn up the music? Oh, you know how to use it. You gotta turn up the music, music, yeah. That sound.